Well, I'm braving the cold today to hopefully buy a house at half price. Stick around. Hopefully you subscribed and you're going to watch as we bid on this house today at a foreclosure auction. So this is one of the things that we do is we chase down houses, and we've gone to thousands of foreclosure auctions and we bought hundreds of homes for about half price. And today could be the day that you see this one happen right here on this channel. So what we're here to do today is do our due diligence. You can see some of my colleagues, some of my competition scouting out the property. The auction is held right here, right in the front yard of this single family home that has been vacant. The owner, I believe, had passed away, and this house, the bank is putting it up for auction today. So are we going to come down with a huge win? Are we going to buy a house for a fraction of what it would go for if it was being sold conventionally? Well, you just got to stick around and find out. Think warm thoughts for me as we explore this foreclosure auction. All right, so we're checking out the property. Now remember, the auctions, when we go to these things, they happen right at the actual property themselves. So you're not on the courthouse steps. You're out here in Mother Nature, freezing your butt off. But you're more importantly able to look at the house and evaluate as much as you possibly can before you bid on it. The reason I'm outside in the cold with you is because, well, that's how these things work. You don't get a private tour. You don't get an hour to do a walkthrough and do a full inspection and have your contractors there. You're kind of guesstimating what kind of condition this place might be in. So that's one of the things you're looking at as you're walking around the property. Sometimes these things are vacant. Sometimes they're occupied. You never really know. In this case here, I think it's pretty clear that the property appears to be vacant. But we went an extra step, and I'll follow up on that in a second for your due diligence. But here as we're walking around and looking at the outside of the property, we're going to come up with basically a rehab estimate of how much work the place is going to need to get brought up to after repair value. That's going to be the full, all fixed up, sellable value of this property. And some of the things we're noticing, right, is you have intact siding, which is great, but it's the really old school aluminum siding as opposed to the vinyl siding that you're seeing on today's homes. You're looking at it's got a really nice chimney. Some of the things you want to pay attention to is if the chimney has any deterioration, if it needs to be repointed. Usually you see a lot of issues with that at the top of the chimney. You're looking at the foundation, seeing if there's damage, cracks, things like that. One big one here in the Northeast is you want to make sure this property doesn't have underground oil tanks. Now, homes are heated in lots of different ways, from wood stoves to oil to gas. Sometimes they were heated with oil heating systems, and sometimes those tanks for those oil systems were actually buried in the yard of the property somewhere. Those things could cause a leak. Often they deteriorated over time and caused a leak. That could be a huge amount of cleanup for you in terms of EPA guidelines. That could be an absolute deal breaker. Most people don't know about that and don't realize that until they get stuck with that situation. So don't let that be you. Hopefully you've been a viewer here and a subscriber and have learned that already on our channel. Let's take a look around the rest of the property. We're going to sneak around back while all my competitors and colleagues are in the front still. Again, you have a central AC unit here. This thing is very, very old. That's going to need to be replaced. These are all things you should be factoring in. Now, because we know this property is vacant, peeping in windows is probably a pretty good idea. You can get an idea of what some of the inside of the property might need for renovation. Maybe it needs flooring. Maybe it needs kitchens and baths to be updated. But since we can't see anything and it's locked up like really tight, I'm guessing, you're going to surmise that the kitchen and the bathroom probably haven't been updated in a very long time. Now, what makes me think that? Well, the way the outside of the property presents. The property is very outdated. This is aluminum siding, very, very old. Aluminum awnings, very, very old. Again, hedges and styling and landscaping. This property, if I were to just guess off the top of my head, was probably lived in by an older person. They grew to be pretty old. Maybe they passed away or went into, care somewhere at a medical facility. But my guess is they hadn't done anything on the outside of the property. They probably haven't updated the interior of the property either. Let's take a look around. We're going to be looking at a few other things. In the front, we noticed that it had a gas meter. So it does have gas on this street and probably has been upgraded to a gas heating system. So that's really good at least. Again, you're looking at the windows. You want to see if the windows have been updated or if they're the original windows that came with the house. You even want to think about things like lead paint. And you can see around the windows, and I noticed on the front door, paint deterioration. And that appears to me that it was probably lead paint. You don't really know until it's tested, but it's like but you don't technically know. So one of the last pieces of due diligence that you can do, and we actually did, this is a great little nugget, is talk to the neighbors. So one of the things we actually did, me and a couple of the other guys here bidding, actually went up to the neighbors and knocked on their door because we couldn't get any information about the inside of the way this house was set up. We actually talked to the neighbor who opened the door and had a chat with us. Were actually really, really helpful. They let us know a bit about the backstory about the property, that the previous owner no longer lives here. They have passed away a while back, but that the property is intact. They actually were kind of keeping a good eye on it. So it's, again, one of those kind of like good neighborhood vibe type situations. So they knew all about the property. They knew that the property is fully intact. So they know it's not been broken into and squatted in, that the plumbing wasn't stolen, that kind of stuff. And that helps us a lot with a rehab estimate. So look who we found. This is Emilie, and she is here to meet up with us, I guess, and hang out a little bit and check out, I guess, her first auction.
Yeah, this is my first auction, Kevin.
Which is really, really cool. I'm loving the fact that we get to show her around, and it gives me somebody better looking to hang out with instead of Matt all the time. Because, Jesus, you know, anything's an upgrade. My God.
What do you have to come with to bid on the property?
Well, so they want to weed out, you know, frivolous bidders, maybe relatives of the former owner trying to, you know, play with a bid or something like that. So you have to register to bid, and for that you need to have a deposit. So you need to bring some money. Usually these things are about $5,000. Today it might be a $10,000, basically registration fee. It's refundable if you don't win. But if you win the bid today, you're locking up your $5,000 deposit.
Okay, and do you need to have cash in the bank to acquire the property, or can you do creative financing after you win the bid?
So, you know, a lot of people ask about that. Now, when you win the bid at an auction, like say the auction happens today, we win the bid, we don't become the owner on the spot. We don't need to bring the rest of the, you know, $100,000 winning bid money today to pay it off. You have to go through a closing process, and you know, in different banks will have different time frames for how long it takes to close. We've had some close within a few weeks of the day we won at auction. We've had some that took a few months. And then recently we had one that it was 2 years since we won an auction. And we got a call and you're like, oh, wow, we were the second highest bidder. There was an issue with the first highest bidder and they couldn't perform, et cetera. So, you know, they called us and we said, sure.
Is there ability to back out if you do go through your due diligence period and, you know, something's really crazy, or is it just your SOL?
That's a great, you know, you can and you should in some cases. In some cases, we wish we had backed out because we lost, you know, a huge amount of money on a property instead of just losing our deposit. So if you don't mind leaving your deposit hanging and losing $5,000 and walking away and cutting your losses, sometimes that's a smart move. I mean, it is what it is, you know?
And do you flip all of these properties, or is it on a case-by-case basis? If it's multifamily, do you buy and hold, or?
Well, so I mean, one of the things I always tell people is to try to have a plan before you buy the property at an auction, before you bid on something, know what you're planning to do with it. But hopefully you're buying something so right at such a great price that it gives you the flexibility to use it for more than one use. I've seen people go out and buy a property at auction or wherever, and they're buying it because they're going to Airbnb that sucker. And the only way it works is when they're buying it and the numbers for Airbnb income, you know, daily rentals, et cetera, are what support them buying it at such a high price.
So at like a long-term rental?
Well, they're painting themselves into a corner. If Airbnb goes illegal, goes out of fashion, you know, in 6 months or 6 years, they're stuck with this thing that only works if it's done as an Airbnb. Otherwise, they way overpaid for it. They can't use it as a long-term rental. They'll never be able to, you know, the rents coming in won't cover, you know, their cost to operate it or own it.
So what do you think this house is valued at?
Well, that I don't know yet. So one of the things we're doing here today, aside from, you know, chatting and doing a lot of this, is our team is taking pictures of the property. We're running comps on it, and we're trying to figure out a couple of things. We're trying to figure out the ARV, the after repair value. Once it's all fixed up and nice, like these neighboring properties, you know, what this house would be worth. And we do that by looking at similar homes in the area and what they've sold for recently. The other thing we're looking at is how much are we going to have to dump into this thing to get it to that value? And we're doing that by taking pictures of it. We're sharing that pictures with our team. We're all kind of using our experience and you know, weighing in on what we think it's going to cost.
Have you done business in this neighborhood directly?
Not like specifically, but in this town, certainly. You know,
I mean, the street looks nice.
Everything's nice.
It's not on a double line. It seems like it's a residential neighborhood.
I would live here in a heartbeat. Yeah, this is nice.
Do we know how much renter to owner occupant there is in this neighborhood?
I'm sure this is all owner occupied.
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's all mostly single family, and they're all well taken care of. I don't think you're going to see much for any rentals in
Yeah,
here.
I don't see a lot of distressed
No.
properties in the area.
So I mean, I think our main plan with this would be to either renovate it ourselves and sell it as a flip on the
Sure.
market, or put it in the hands of one of our contractors that is looking for a flip, and we would call that a wholesale.
Sure.
Because there's almost 30,000 in municipal stuff that's owed on the property. So that means whatever we bid today, anybody that buys this thing for 100,000 or 200,000, you got to pay all that money on top of your bid, because you got to square up with City Hall. They're always going to get paid, man. They slap fines on these things. They jack up the taxes. They're not going to get wiped out. They're going to get paid.
So we are opening up at $100,000. I have $100,000 where? I have $100,000 where? I have $100,000 with Russell.
Yep.
RC.
Okay.
I'm looking for 110. 110. What are your initials, sir?
MD.
MD. I have 110 with MD. I'm looking for 120. I have 110 with MD. Looking for 120. 120. What was it?
BC.
BC. Okay, thank you. BC. I have 120 with BC. I'm looking for 130. I have 120 with BC. 130 with RC.
Okay, got it. Yep.
Thank you. I have 130 with RC, looking for 140. I have 130 with RC, looking for 140. 140 is where? 140?
NF.
NF. I have 140 with NF, looking for 150. 150 is where? I have 140 with NF, looking for 150.
Can you do 45?
I can do 45.
145.
What's
MD.
MD. I have 145 with MD. I'm looking for 150.
150.
150.
NZ.
Pardon me?
NZ.
NZ. I have 150 with NZ, looking for 155. NZ, 155?
NF.
NF. I have 155 with NF, looking for 160. I have 155.
Yes.
VS, 160. I'm looking for 165. Want to do 165?
Love you.
No? Alright, I'm at 160, looking for 165. I have 160, looking for 165. 165?
AM.
AM, 170? Want to go 170?
Yeah.
170. Looking for 175. 175, your initials one more time?
BC.
BC, thank you. 175 with BC, looking for 180. 175 with BC, looking for 180. I have 175. 170.
AM.
Okay, 180 for KM? Alright. I have 180 looking for 185. I have 180 looking for 185. 185 is where? 185 is where? I have 180 going once.
185.
185.
BC.
BC. I have 185 with BC looking for 190. 190? AM. I have 190 looking for 195. 190 looking for 195. I have 190 looking for 195. I have 190,000 going once. 190,000 going twice. 3 times. All fair bidding, fair selling. Everyone satisfied?
Where are we? An extra minute.
90? Where are we?
Yeah, we're at 190. Yep.
Any advances?
Any advances? Sold for 190.
Well, we came out and we froze our butts off for nothing today. We did not get a house. It's all right, though. We got to learn and hang out and do this, right?
Definitely was a valuable experience.
Yeah. So the place went for, what, 190? Way higher than what we were going to bid on our end. I think we were going to back out at about 135, 140. Part of that was mainly because of rehab costs, things like that. Just it didn't fit our formula. All right, so this was your first auction experience. You know, you got to come out, hang out, and I know it was kind of cold, but what'd you think about this whole thing?
I thought it was a lot less complicated than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I thought that the property went for a little bit too much considering the value that might be in the house and the amount of work that it might need. I think 190 doesn't leave enough room for it to be worth it for a flipper to flip this property. But if you were to live in it yourself, this person got a great value.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the inside is. I think it's wild, right? Somebody spent
Yeah.
$190,000 today without even seeing
See
what.
the inside, and you know the aftermarket value on Zillow says about $250,000 in the middle point of the high and low end of the ARV.
Wow. Yeah.
So I would say $70,000 doesn't seem like it would be enough to get this up to the $250,000
yeah,
mark.
yeah, and you're taking on risk
Yeah,
to get that.
for
So
sure.
you're getting really tiny margins and you're taking a lot
Sure.
of risk.
You don't know if all the floors need to be redone. You don't know what the siding situation is.
Right.
It seems like the siding itself could take up a big part of that budget.
Yeah, and that's just on the
And
outside.
that's just on the outside.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, would you come back to another auction?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
totally.
Would you come back with
interesting.
us? Was
Yeah,
I?
of course. I'd like to be a regular.
Oh, look at that. She wants to be a regular on the channel. Matt, we're replacing you already, buddy.
Coming for you, Matt.
Well,
All right.
we look forward to having you back and hanging out. And we look forward to having you guys come back too. And hopefully you'll see us pull off a win on the next video.
I'm happy to be a guest.
All right. See you guys. Take care.